Willkommen im Oktober, einen Monat voller interessanter Geschichten über Krieg, Angst, Mut und Gefahr während der Invasion Grenadas 1983. So welcome to the month of October, a month full of interesting stories about war, anxiety, courage, all related to the invasion of Grenada in 1983. I believe you'll find some very interesting stories during this month. And if you have any stories of your own, please feel free. Get in touch with me. Send it over. And we'll definitely be happy to share it with the rest of the world. I believe it would be very interesting at this time, especially when there is so much anxiety concerning the U.S.-Venezuela situation. Hopefully we can give some perspectives on the realities, harsh realities of intervention and war. So it all starts here, Green Street, where I grew up. In the background, you can see what would have been Simeon's guest house. I grew up exactly opposite the Kingdom Hall Church on Green Street. Like every young island boy, your days are filled with hanging around in the neighborhood with your friends or finding something constructive or destructive to do. Nothing new. As you can see from this picture here, what remains, because obviously the house was demolished. But here you can see what I always aptly describe, these wonderful concrete benches, and there was a concrete platform. So as I said, my friends and I, this would be our meeting place. And many people in the neighborhood on the way up or on the way down would sit by, chat with my mother, chat with myself, chat with my sisters, and we'd hang out on the platform and have a good time. But sometimes it says the very good things that you have can be a blessing, but it can also be a curse. So it was a couple of days after October 25th, I don't know, probably 2-3 days. It was a beautiful, bright, hot, sunny day. Clear skies, just amazing, simply amazing. And I'm sure, just like we thought it was a great place to hang out and relax with perfect views of the harbor, some American soldiers on their march up Green Street would have also thought, hey, let's take a pause. The sun is hot. It was actually a very hot day that day. And me being inside in my usual pattern of behavior, I would just dash through the front door, which was on the other side, towards where we had a little garden. And I would usually sometimes just dash through the back door towards the platform and benches to hang out and just relax myself. It was just normal young boy behavior, as we would say. The doors were closed at the time when the soldiers were hanging out on the concrete benches, so I wasn't aware of their presence. Interestingly enough, those doors back in the days, I don't know if anyone remembers, but they had these sort of latch and bolt. So when you're opening it, you would unlatch and pull down. Well, for some reason, this is exactly what I did when I was trying to exit my house to go onto the concrete benches and hang out. Well, I'm sure for anyone who's familiar with weaponry would understand what that song would sound like. So here am I as a young boy trying to exit my door to go to the concrete benches and hang out. And of course, I unlatched and pulled the bolt downwards. And as soon as I exited the door, it might have startled the soldiers that were sitting on the benches because of the song of the latch. So immediately, they all drew for their weapons. At that time, it looked to me like it was M16s, and pointed it in my direction. Now, I immediately halted. And of course, I guess, with a couple of seconds thinking, they realized that I obviously was no danger to them. But they were very responsive when I exited the door. And it was about, I would say about 5 to 6 of them. And just imagine as a young kid coming out the door and having 6 M16s pointing at you. I don't think it's a very pleasant experience. It was a pretty interesting mix of responses by the soldiers who were sitting on the benches when I exited the door. Some pulled for their helmets, cover their head and their weapon at the same time. Some managed to just pull for their weapon. But at the end of it all, there were at least 5 to 6 M16s pointing in my direction. In retrospect, some of them were not just M16s. They were M16s packed with the M203 launchers beneath them. After the initial anxiety, we all seemed to calm down. I, just a little distance away from them, sat down, looked towards the carnage, relaxed, and we both pretended like nothing happened. And I continued sitting there. They continued sitting there. Eventually, they got up and continued to move further up Green Street. And I stuck around, hanging out on my concrete benches. Later on, I would relate the story to a couple of friends of mine. Eventually, my sister would come out and join me, and we all hang around and we'll talk about what just happened. It was funny. Lucky enough, in that situation, no one panicked or recklessly was trigger happy. So I was lucky. I was blessed. After realizing that obviously I was no threat and no danger, everybody sort of relaxed, said hi, and I just continued just hanging out, just sitting right there in front of the step. I didn't go a little further. I just stayed in front of the step of my door. Very relieved, of course. And interestingly enough, when you're at that age, you're not as scared about these things as you would have been probably when you're older. I guess you just don't make much to do about the danger you're facing. So there you have it. Another story. In the midst of Grenada's invasion, stories of anxiety, courage, fear, doubt, worry. There's more to come. I have a very interesting one coming up very soon. Tschüss!